So we are Tuesday the 17th of November, and I don't know where the last 3 weeks have gone. 1 minute I've got loads and loads of time left on my hands and I'll get everything finished, and here I am still the 17th of November, still trying to get things done. But today was a good day. I've already got this next apiary done. That's 19 hives, one dead out which died out in the summer, well, late summer, and I should have shaken it out but didn't get around to it. So it was robbed out, which is fine. Not ideal, but it was a dead out already. So I've got 19 colonies left here, and they're all looking pretty good. I'm just going to smoke these little bees away because they're being a bit of a pest. But just to say that we have had incredibly mild weather for the last few days. The bees have been flying well. They've been bringing in some pollen. Most of the ivy pollen is now finished. It's now mostly things like mustard, but there is a little bit of other things this year. There is some white radish, which the farmers have sown as a fertilizer crop, which will be ploughed in, and there's also some mixed pollinator crops. In other words, field beans, some sunflowers, which are only small but they're flowering, and there's facile and there's stuff like that. So on the way home, I'm going to show you on the way home those fields and try and get some pictures of that, just to show you what's around here for the bees now. But it was interesting today. I've gone through all these colonies and every single one was brilliant. I was absolutely thrilled to bits. They are so strong compared to this time last year. I can't say if it's my management, but I'm pretty sure that I've got the Varroa better under control. Yesterday I went and did an apiary and I had 2 dead outs. It was the classic Varroa death. There was no bees in the colony and just the brood nest still on 10 frames, so I didn't make a nuke from it at the end of the summer. So I know it wasn't me, but there was no sign of the queen and no bees in the colony, just empty, with 3 frames where the brood was and just bees with their tongues hanging out. It was treated. There was bees of a good number because I know the treatment went in, and I know that the treatment went around the cluster when I put the treatment in. And the interesting thing is, it must have been so much Varroa in that colony that even the treatments weren't going to stop it cascading into that collapse. And that's what happens when the Varroa numbers are so high and they've already passed these viruses on. And don't forget, it depends what type of viruses the bees have got from the Varroa. It depends what the reaction is in terms of their capability to survive different viruses. And therefore the colony collapses under certain conditions. But I'm going into my winter this year with a different view. I'm checking all these colonies now. I'm taking the feeders off late, and I'm quite pleased I am, because I'm counting my winter losses now. And this would have been my winter losses. I'm almost 100% sure it's better to do this late in the year. I know a lot of people, and I'm not pointing fingers, but there's a lot of people who close up their hives and they do think that their colony is perfectly queen right and everything. In fact, it's probably a drone layer, or there's an issue somewhere, or there's something they've missed, and they open up in the spring and there's nothing to open up to, and they class that as a winter loss. And I know it isn't. I know that most winter losses aren't a problem with the queen. Most winter losses really are no queen in the autumn, or a drone laying colony, or a laying worker colony before you even get into the winter. And you hear all these reports of winter losses, and most of the time bees are going to survive perfectly well on what they've got. It's surprising how hardy they were. I was thinking about this today with all these feeders there when I was taking them off, and you see the ones I've taken off here. This is just one apron. I've got another one to do next door. But I was thinking about this a lot, and when I first started, I often left my feeders on and I didn't have any insulation on, and the bees overwintered absolutely fine. So now I'm thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing to make this difference? Well, I asked that question, and I ask all of you out there, have you done something in beekeeping and it's, without you realizing, it's worked really well, and that you've come away from it because the popular consensus is not to do that? And that's what I think we should look at. I can't say that my management this year has changed my bees, but it's looking like it has. I'm pretty sure that the thymol I gave has done something to the colony to make the bees so strong. I have never seen bees in my apiaries. It's either chalk or cheese kind of thing. There's either an amazing colony or it's dead. Or there's like 3 bees left. So they're going to go now, and that's why I'm talking about my winter losses. I've got this thing now where I'm convinced that your winter losses are happening in the autumn, and there's nothing else you can really say about it. So with that in mind, I'm just going around the apiaries now. I've nearly finished them. I've got 3 more left to do, but 2 of them are small apiaries. I've got one the other side. This is my joint apiary, this one here. I've got 2 apiaries in a small area, but the area is massive. And there's waterways, there's different trees, there's a huge diversity of pollens and flowers and all that kind of stuff. So it works here. And I've only just increased this apiary this year to 20 hives, because I've got 20 the other side, so it's 40 hives in one area. But it does sustain it, and that's where you've got to be careful of. You can't put too many hives in one area. But here I know it works, because these last year, out of all my winter losses, this was one of the best apiaries I had, where they all survived. So something to bear in mind: if you've done something in the past, think about it, bring it up, discuss it, go onto the forums about it. You know, it's interesting how we all follow this popular thing. You've got to do it like this. What happened to thymol? Why did people stop using that? You know, it seems to be an absolutely brilliant thing. To me, it's another thing, and you don't get resistance with it. You know, it seems to help me. I don't know. I'm just flying things around. I know some dead outs are caused by extreme weather conditions, you know, and hives not being protected enough, and things happen. Yeah, that does happen. Then you get isolation, starvation. But what I'm talking about is generally, if your numbers of winter losses are high in the spring, you're doing something seriously wrong. And I learned that last year. So for me, I feel I've got my varroa under control. I've been better organized this year. I've been more timely with my interventions, and I put that effort in. At the moment, it's looking like I've got a better product to go into that winter with. Now, obviously, we don't know what the winter's going to throw at us. But if your level of general strength of colony is good, most colonies will survive perfectly well on what they've got. On our Dadont 10-frame hives, we generally don't need to feed anything all winter, and even in the spring. I've never had a situation in 10 years where I've had to feed hives after the winter. Our Dadont hives hold plenty of food. It's the nukes you have to watch, as I said time and time again. There's the ones that can crash and just die, you know, in no time. But if we go in and we get a nice cold spell, I mean, obviously the ideal weather would be dry, clearish, you know, not too much wind, about 6, 5, 4 degrees for the whole winter. Perfect. I would love that, but that doesn't happen here. For us here, we generally have up and down weather, which is good and bad. So the bees do cluster for a bit, and they break their cluster when it warms up, and then they can get a flight and poop, and then they have to cluster again. That's not a problem. It's when it's for us, but our bees here, they're used to that. So overall, I have to say I'm very, very happy with the way things have gone. I consider myself very lucky that we've had this period of mild weather, because obviously I fed the pollen sub late, but I kind of feel I've got away with it, you know, and I've got super duper colonies now. These bees weren't actually even fed any pollen sub. So I could have said, would all my other colonies be like that? Probably. Immediately I'm thinking, was it worth it? But yes, it was, because you have to try these things. As I said, you've got to be looking to different areas where you can do something to your bees that can make that difference. You know, our bees are pushed so hard now with environmental conditions, with varroa mite, with us, with Asian hornet, with other people, small hive beetle, with other people, numerous things. And it's only a matter of time for perhaps the next bug, you know, Tropilelaps comes in. Who knows what that's going to do? We've got to be working all the time to keep looking at what we can do to make our bees better. And if it means careful breeding to help against varroa mite, we should be looking at that as well, you know. So as I said in my previous video, we've been refilling our hornet traps, and I've just done this apiary again. And because of the mild weather, we really have benefited well in capturing a lot of hornets, because normally this time of year the hornets finish their natural life cycle, and they do that earlier here because we're in North Europe, and you know, the sun gets low, it gets cold, and the nests finish their kind of natural life cycle that hornets do, all types of hornets do, but it means they start that production of queens, and usually we can't really do much about the nests we haven't been able to find in all these. I mean, look out here. I mean, it's literally needle and haystack. There's no way you could find. This is an area probably 240 hectares of one area just with trees in it and mixed scrub, trying to find an Asian hornet nest. It could just be in those brambles there, because they've taken to start nesting in brambles now, as you know, the one in front of my house. That's quite a common thing. So this time of year, if it's mild and you do refill your traps, you do get that 2 week or 1 week period, even sometimes 4 or 5 day period, where you can at least trap some, and then you're a little bit ahead. So there wasn't many this year, and the ones that had made nests are out there somewhere doing their business, finishing their nests, making their queens, but at least we'll be able to start trapping them. And we're only trapping founding queens now, generally. It's worth a go. And next spring we'll start again in March time. In March time I'm going to be using my original bottle traps there, but I'm also going to be using the new traps from Vita Farm, which are the standard goblet ones. But as I said, the great thing about those is they use a very small amount of bait. So I'm going to try the two next year, one alongside the other, so I won't have to make any more old traps. I'm just going to spend the money and buy a box of 50 and put those into my system of beekeeping, because it's just another little thing you can do to help your bees, you know, another thing that doesn't cause stress. If you get a big nest of Asian hornets around here and they're constantly in front of your bees, that is another thing that causes your bees stress, and you don't want that. You want to avoid the stress. So I've just stopped on the way home. This is one of the fields I was on about. This field isn't as in flower as some of the others, and I think it was sown a little bit later, but it just gives you some idea of what's around. You've got a few sunflowers. There's, try and turn this around. We've got white radish that's in flower. There's the base, you can see the little radishes there. Some are bigger, some are smaller. I saw one big one just now. Where's it gone? This is more typical. You can see there, you get this like small sort of false radish at the bottom. But that's white radish anyway, and it's really good for bees. They absolutely love it. It is great this is sown, and it's lovely to see. The only thing is, after kind of another 2 or 3 weeks at the very most, the bees won't be able to get to this when it just starts to come into full flower, unless we have some exceptionally mild weather again. You can see the facile here as well, just starting to come out, but it won't really ever make it now. But there you go, it's better than nothing. You know, I did see some bees on it when I first came, but lovely to see that there's that energy to sow something that's going to benefit all the insects. So on one side you have a floral desert, on the other side we've got a floral utopia. I know which one I'd choose. Have a good day.